Void Tech Online.
And so it begins, a battle of epic proportions. Commander Wartwart and his new Federation Void Task Force began assaulting our base. What few turrets we actually had operational stood absolutely no chance against the raiding party. Wartwart and his soldiers moved like lightning. Napoleon and our clone army would stand their ground though. No matter how dangerous they seemed, we would not back down. Besides, they could be the competition that we have longed for so long. But only time would tell if this battle was even worth our time. Our men stood firm, shoulder to shoulder on the battlefield, brothers in arms. The battle raged on for hours. Wartwart was still barely touched, and he had many men left. All at once, he and his St. Healy made an offensive push through our front lines. During the process, many of our brothers were gravely wounded, and we had to make a strategic retreat. We found footing in a new position and began firing at his army once again. However, Napoleon was determined to hunt down Wartwart on his own. We found Wartwart attempting to flank our soldiers from the side, so Napoleon came up and started blasting him. We also began attempting to move our soldiers in closer after finding him so that we could give him all the firepower we had. Luckily, our elite clone soldiers came to Napoleon's rescue as he was attacked by several St. Healy. Napoleon managed to corner Wartwart. The two of them began to engage in a sword fight. Wartwart proved to be a worthy adversary, but luckily our clone soldiers had surrounded him as well and began firing on him. All at once his armor broke and he dropped to the ground, and we had finally defeated Commander Wartwart. The battle had finally ended and we were victorious, but we paid a heavy toll. Not only did several of our clone brothers die during the battle, but also many of them were actually kidnapped by the Void Federation Task Force as well. This was truly a dark day. But fret not, my friends. We would make them pay. Every last one of them. But before we could enact any revenge on Void, we had a lot of work to do. We had many of our brothers to rescue, and we have plenty of healing to do as well. We also have a lot of corpses to clean up from just outside of our base, and plenty of members who are gravely injured who still needed a good sword through the old throat. Not that we really mind obliging them with that, these stupid pieces of dog shit. Anyhow though, Wartwart, even just this short amount of time after the battle, appeared to be fully healed from his wounds. This, given with his astounding resilience and combat skills, we assume that he must have plenty of modifications made by Void. But before we check out Wartwart's modifications, we have plenty of healing to do. As mentioned before, many of our brothers are bleeding out in their rooms. And just as well, we also need to begin cleaning up our battlefield around the base to ensure that enemies are not able to pick up weapons, and we also need to remove these corpses before they begin stinking and rotting and getting all of our clones sick. But speaking of corpses, we would also need to bury our remaining brothers from the battlefield as well. The battle may be over, but not all returned home. Rest in peace, my little loves. But now with all that done, we can finally examine Wartwart's exquisite body, I mean his modifications. Let's see, zombie-like control, machine-like reflexes and combat skills. Aha, there it is, a Void Tech AI controlling him, no doubt. Ah yes, that'll do the trick. Now we need to get that little bugger out of his head. It's kind of like Cortana from the Halo series, except, purple? And also evil. Anyhow though, let's dig that little booger right out of his head. That should fix him right up. Ah, now that is much better. Now it's going to take quite some time though for the AI effects to really wear off, so we're going to try to convince him that we're not horrible monsters. Well, at least that Void is a much more horrible monster than we are. I mean, we did try to take over the world in episode 2, but we won't talk about that. At this point, we basically just focused on rebuilding after the battle. Some of our defenses as well as our homes were severely damaged, so we were working on those. Of course though, we are union workers technically, so we had mandatory chest breaks every 30 to 45 minutes. And boy, I'll tell you, it really keeps the mind sharp. Well, that kind of sounded a little aggressive. Moving on though, I decided to build a new type of turret, and we had one persona core and it required one persona core, so I thought, well, this must be great. It did didn't exactly look great. It's a giant naval cannon. I guess we'll see how it does. It's worth mentioning as well, since Void has taken over the Federation task force and we're getting more raids from this task force, we're also getting plenty of our delicious meat bots. And honestly, it's pretty crazy because we have so much of it that we don't have near enough space, and I'm going to have to expand our freezer. But that's okay, we don't mind. Now that we finally cleared off our brethren, as well as the good corpses that we can eat from the battlefield, for the most part, it's time that we deal with the other corpses. And of course, the best way to deal with corpses in RimWorld is with some good old-fashioned napalm burning fire, baby. So that's exactly what we did. We lit the entire massive corpse pile on fire, and then we kicked back and watched it burn. Shame we don't have any marshmallows or any weenies, am I right? No, but this is serious. The smoldering corpses of our enemies filled the night sky with light, just as well with a disgusting putrid stench. We have no idea what they feed these disgusting Void associates, but whatever it is, it sure makes them smell when we burn them. Maybe it's possible they shit themselves during battle when they saw Napoleon and his army. Speaking of which, after plenty of time to heal as well as clean up the base and make sure that we are still well defended, it was finally time for us to enact our revenge. One of the capital cities of the Void Federation task force wasn't too far from our base, which turned out to be perfect. That way we wouldn't have to waste much fuel before we bombed the ever-loving shit out of them. I won't lie though, I wasn't anticipating such a large city because the powerful faction bases mod was actually turned up fairly high, so unfortunately we only brought 3 nuclear bombs. Still enough to do a whole heck of a lot of damage to the base, but there was still plenty of their soldiers left. It was quite alright though. Given the circumstances, I suppose we could be inclined to get out of our ship and start kicking some ass on the ground. To which, naturally, of course, you know that we definitely did. Turns out, without good old Commander Wart leading them, the Federation task force was nothing but a former shell of itself. Surprisingly, in my opinion, I would say that they were even weaker than they were before the Void takeover / absorption, and that's pretty damn weak. With our retribution firmly distributed against the Federation task force, we decided to relax ourselves a little bit with some nice meals and some good company from our clone brethren. But be fooled not, my friends, for the Federation task force was not a milestone on the way to victory. No, they were nothing more than an inconvenience. They've done nothing but slow the inevitable defeat of Void on this planet. But now their commander, good old Wart, he is of interest to us. He very well may be a key part in taking down Void. But of course, only time shall tell. Hey, how's it hanging? Thanks ever so much for watching the entire video. You are absolutely wonderful. Unless you skip to the end from the beginning, then I hate you. But anyways, a special thanks to our patrons. I love you guys ever so much. If you guys would like to support me on Patreon, there is a link in the channel bio as well as the video description. Our patrons make this video as well as all other videos on the channel possible, and they're absolutely astoundingly amazing. But I love all of you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.